Story 1. Just zoning out and being quiet. Listening to the world around me helps me avoid emotions and stay alert. Horrible coping mechanisms, but it could be worse. Story 2. I become mute when I am upset. If I try to talk or say something, I break down into tears. It is very difficult to deal with. Story 3. People pleasing, with a special skill in accommodating and befriending selective, anxious, and otherwise very toxic people. Story 4. Isolation is better than constant rejection. Silence is better than lies. Peace of mind is better than a broken heart. Story 5. I grew up with a volatile perfectionist parent, so I am a pronounced sort of nice that comes from placating an unpredictable person for a couple of decades. I am friendly and kind to ensure I am not a target of anyone's misplaced anger, even when it is not there. It is the worst. Story 6. People pleasing, being largely indifferent toward just about everything, worrying about others first, having no real personality or hobbies. However, some positives include high emotional intelligence, high empathy, critical thinking and reasoning skills, and a good level of independence. Story 7. The ability to match energy and interact with any personality. I work in retail, and my coworkers have told me that I am great with all customers. I immediately gauge how they are based on one hello. Once I get a response, I know how to proceed, either with lots of smiles and friendly conversation or being stone-faced and saying the bare minimum, only speaking when spoken to. Somehow, the interaction always ends nicely, even with the most difficult customers. This skill was honed from living with someone who might have had an undiagnosed mood disorder and never knowing who I would be coming home to that day. One day could be happy and cheery. Another day could be rage-filled. And another day could be an emotional black hole. My whole experience at home was trying to sense the situation and figure out what wire to snip so the bomb would not go off. Story 8. Trust no one. Assess everyone. Know the exits, the location of everyone, and what can be used as a weapon nearby. Story 9. Caretaking. My mother was not okay, so I went through life trying to make everyone okay. Pro tip. It is a waste of energy, and there are people who take advantage of that. Story 10. I hear a raised voice, and I immediately try to get out of the room, preferably the house. It was really difficult for me when a couple I used to live with would constantly argue. Story 11. Blending into any environment and becoming uninteresting to avoid dangerous people. Being able to identify someone with an antisocial personality disorder and avoiding them. Story 12. Problems are addictive. They provide significance without the risk of working hard and still being insignificant. The problem is a way of feeling significant due to attention. This is why people who have many problems all the time will not take action because they are feeling significant. One will notice the same people tend to have lots of drama. These are the people addicted to problems. Then a personality trait develops from it. Story 13. Unfortunately, no one truly knows the real me anymore. When I allowed that to happen in the past, it was used against me repeatedly. Story 14. Resilience and kindness. I believe my kindness is a result of my upbringing and difficult moments that gave me nothing else to stand out for. Story 15. My sense of humor is influenced by my persistent depressive disorder. I was first diagnosed with depression when I was 7 years old. My humor can be a little dark. I am not sure what it would be like if I had not been depressed my entire life. Story 16. I've managed to shed people-pleasing mostly, and I'm getting a lot better at relaxing around spending money on myself. The ones I struggle with are hyper-independence. I really can't believe anyone would help me because they want to. Hypervigilance. I'm always waiting for the worst to happen, and then ruminating about it and letting other people's moods affect me. I would always try to make others feel better because I believed they were upset with me. Now I just accept that people have moods, and it's not my job to fix them. Story 17. Having plan A, B, C, and D. I kept failing repeatedly, which forced me to consider the worst before the best. Story 18. Lifetime chronic asthmatic. They do not give inhalers away. Had to work, no long-term downtime other than family deaths. Everyone, it did not matter the job. Pumping gas, pushing broom, security guard at midnight, anything to buy the next spray and fend off the next attack. Force-fed pragmatism. Story 19. Assertiveness. I had to learn to be very assertive in order to be listened to and receive accommodations as a chronically and mentally ill person. Story 20. Good question. I am careful about trusting. I am determined and ambitious. I have no shame and even lack remorse. My brain is a natural survivor. It is, at this point, built to survive even situations where I should lose everything. I will be crawling right back to a great life. But how much of it is my childhood, and how much is my nature, I truly cannot answer. Story 21. Adapting. From the words of an original YouTube creator, life is full of mysteries. Life is full of hardships. Sometimes it's hard to open a jar. Sometimes it's hard to clean the sink. And if you're not careful, you might fall and not get up. But guess what? We can make your life just a little bit easier. Life hacks. Life hacks can make your life easier. Story 22. I constantly worry about money and fear making big purchases. I am living with my mother and sister, and every day I think about my next payslip and start calculating how much of my income will go towards rent and bills. I am moving out in a month and already planning how my next job's pay will be divided into essential categories. Story 23. Any information or statement I share has the potential to be spread behind my back. Therefore, I only speak if I am comfortable with that possibility, even when talking to my closest friend or a family member. Story 24. I compartmentalize everything and often lose sight of the larger picture as a result. I also brain dump and, as a result, do not often recall details that others do. I am suspicious of everyone. Story 25. I attempt to fix everything before I get rid of it, and I have never had a professional do a job for me. I figure it cannot get any more damaged, so it is worth a shot. Story 26. Speed walking everywhere. I lived in a gang-filled area in my early adulthood, so I had to move fast if I did not want the gangs to see me. Story 27. Hindi mahilig sa bata. Paano lumaking kalejeng sinisisyan magulang? Dahil mahirap na ingya ang nakanak ng maraming beses. En gayon, tapos na ako manisi. Nasa healing stage na ako, pero hindi pa rin mahilig sa bata. Story 28. I would rather be alone. I have been working on this, but I don't think it will leave my system until I stop talking to or seeing my biological family. They just reinforce all the nonsense. Story 29. I have a lot of patience because I always had to be ready to assist when my father was working. Working was what he was all about, and he spoke little, so I stood around waiting and watching to be of help when the need arose. Story 30. May as well be honest. I lie, cheat, steal, and use drugs. But somehow I still have a job, have never been in jail, and am more or less a seemingly normal human being. Also, I assume everyone is a morally sick person, just like me. Story 31. Changing myself based on the person. I have literally changed my dietary choices because of someone. Story 32. Always consider the worst possibility in every situation. My logic is that if the worst happens, you will be prepared to face it. If good fortune comes instead, be happy. Story 33. Being a master of self-deprecation, I learned at a young age that if I didn't want to get picked on, the best way to get people on my side was to make jokes at my own expense. It always worked, no matter the personality I faced. However, as an adult, I am now untouchable. You cannot insult me or embarrass me. You cannot say anything to me that I have not already said to myself or worse. In an ironic twist of fate, it has done wonders for my self-confidence. Story 34. I don't get excited about anything. Too many experiences of being excited and then disappointed as a child led me to be afraid of the letdown. Now I don't even bother. Story 35. People pleasing. Learning to manipulate the emotional reactions of others. Knowing how to hide things in plain sight. Bottling up anything and everything that bothers me because I am certain nobody cares and it will be used against me somehow. Not asking for help and taking everything on by myself. These are just the things I learned from childhood. That does not even scratch the surface of what I learned from spending 4 years with my abusive ex. I give kudos to my husband. He is a very patient and loving man and is putting a lot of time and effort into helping me overcome these challenges. Story 36. Being funny, talkative, and friendly. I had no friends when I was little, and all of the kids were saying that I was weird. That is why now I try to be friends with everyone and no one at the same time, because it is scary that somebody can know me that much. I fear that they will call me weird again. Story 37. Over-explaining. I never want anyone to think I have not exhausted every possible option or scenario before I ask for something. Story 38. Do not be overly emotional during an argument. If they see you crack, it is over. Your feelings become something to exploit to win the argument. Keep it logical and watch them fumble. Story 39. Just accepting things that have happened, deciding what to do next, and choosing a path. Do not look back, do not fix, just move forward. Story 40. Being untrustworthy, abiding by what everyone else thinks or wants instead of what I want or think. Staying silent to avoid physical, mental, and emotional abuse, isolation, and living in fight or flight mode constantly because of the fear of losing custody with my mother after my father and his partner threatened me that they would if I didn't obey them and keep quiet. Also, very low body confidence and low self-esteem because who I was and what I felt didn't matter to anyone. Helping others out of a feeling of obligation because to the adults in my life that was all I was really good for. Being the listening ear for others because the adults in my life repeated the same hateful and negative stories about one another from age 4 to 20. Learning to never ask for anything for myself because my mother couldn't afford it or my father just didn't care. Learning how to stop my brother from turning himself into a criminal because one night he was about to snap from all the pressure. I had him call our mom and talk to her instead. Learning how to de-escalate situations with people very well to avoid conflict by simply being agreeable. Learning to never ask why and instead just blindly obeying. And ignoring my own physical pain for 2 years despite having a large ovarian cyst blocking off the blood supply to my left ovary and another fused to my uterine wall for 2 years, leaving me doubled over in pain and passing out in a cold sweat every month because of it. I didn't say anything and didn't talk about the severity of how I felt. I just powered through it because I doubted anyone would help me. My mom ended up taking me to her own obstetrician-gynecologist, who diagnosed me with polycystic ovary syndrome, and that situation led to surgery to remove the ovarian cysts at 16. I lost 75% of my left ovary because of that experience, which could have been fatal eventually if I had not had surgery. Lastly, being a loner and socially awkward due to attention deficit hyperactivity disorder partially, but mostly just not having healthy role models to learn social skills from. I also did not have a healthy example of adults being in love either, so that resulted in my own relationships failing when I was younger too. Story 41. Everything is my fault. I would rather claim it as my own fault and apologize than be yelled at for blaming others. Story 42. I know when to nod and keep my mouth shut, yet I also know how to say what in a certain tone to make people feel like I either agree or disagree, or whatever they want to hear at the given moment, unrelated to what I am actually thinking and feeling. Story 43. Do not speak, especially around people you do not know and trust. My personality is quirky, and people do not like it. Therefore, the answer is never to talk or react. As a result, I developed selective mutism. Story 44. Liking spicy food and having a relatively high spice tolerance because it was the only thing no one else liked. Whether in school cafeterias or dinners with the extended family, it was an ecological niche to monopolize like koalas and eucalyptus. Story 45. My ability to act and get along with conservatives so easily, as if I were one of them, helped me hide who I really was. I think this was also because I wanted to fit in, despite never truly believing anything my family believed. I don't see my family much anymore, but I do see my friends' grandparents who are quite conservative, and I can very easily put the mask back on. Story 46. Remaining silent in the face of opposing opinions, as well as prefacing every decision or suggestion you make with, or I could be completely wrong. I probably am. Story 47. Sass and being a smart mouth. I had to have some kind of defense since I was not always going to win fights, nor did I always want to escalate things to physical confrontations. So I learned to give quick comebacks. It has been surprising how many issues have been stopped mid-escalation when the other person has to stop and think or when laughter gets involved, but it has unfortunately led to escalations as well. Story 48. not really caring about most things, a genuine distance from most issues. I just do not care and have not for decades. Story 49. Confidence. Funny enough, it started with coldness and distrust, which is still true a little for the people who immediately deserve it and to keep myself safe. But through it, I grew stronger and realized I don't need anyone's respect or validation. Then I realized the people who hurt me are likely hurt themselves but ultimately chose a bad path. I chose a good path and I am doing well because of it. That is my revenge. Story 50. I would say it is the opposite for me. The poet who was dreaming about love, peace, and the beauty of the world inside of me had to die completely. Otherwise, I would finally commit suicide. I am now completely emotionless. Humanity could burn and I would not care. Story 51. Hyper-independence. My mom can't exist without a man, regardless of how poorly they treat her. She told me once that she doesn't feel like her life is worth living if she doesn't have someone there with her. I grew up the exact opposite of the 5 times divorced woman and decided that I never needed anyone, which is not true. It took a while, but with my husband, I have finally figured out how to ask for help and relinquish control. Story 52. Most of the points have already been mentioned. Dark humor, lack of trust, keeping to myself and expecting the worst. Story 53. Unconsciously calculating patterns in people through microexpressions and tone, patterns in behavioral actions and temperament. I struggle with trusting truly genuine people because there are many who are not. This is the worst because the real ones are put to the same test and do not deserve it, while bad people can slip through the analysis. It is just a gamble all around. This is my worst personality trait. Story 54. Empathy. When you have an unstable parent, you learn to read their emotions to keep yourself safe. I love that part of myself because it makes me good at my job and makes me a caring person. It is strange to love something that you got from trauma. Story 55. Severe anxiety born into it from household domestic violence. My nervous system never regulated properly. I am also not a pushover. I stand my ground because I do not like to feel oppressed or inappropriately dominated. Story 56. Not caring. I do care sometimes, but most of the time it's like, oh, another bad thing. I just feel so tired and stop caring. 1, because I need to be strong for everyone else. 2, if I start caring or worrying about everything, I will get nowhere. Story 57. The general masculine aesthetic, working out, playing sports, carrying myself with a macho presence, is not instinctual from testosterone the way it is for some people. Story 58. Being socially anxious, I thought that it would stop me from getting into harmful situations involving other people. Story 59. I trust no one, but I show that I trust them. It's useful because the only human in this life who will not harm you or wish bad for you is none other than yourself. Learning to accept grief and whatever bad happens as normal, and to think of happiness and good things that happen as a bonus or gift. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.